I could not believe my eyes when I saw that the work of Conan Doyle has made it into the anime world. This is the last place I would expect this story to be. It would be interesting to see other great stories made into an anime. Not for story reasons, but I am interested to see how those stories will look animated. I would like to see how the Middle-earth looks animated. We already saw a glimpse of the Lord of the Rings in Jujutsu Kaisen. Anyway, the first thing I did was to check if this is a proper anime or just some corporation using an existing brand for profit. But no, that's not the case. The anime is based on a manga, and that made me very excited, since there is nothing better than a manga stories. If someone can deliver and do justice to the original story, then it is a mangaka. Besides reading the books, I also watched the movies and the TV series, and I liked them both. I did watch them multiple times. They did a great job. So, how did the anime do? Well, it is not bad, but it is not great. At least not yet. But there is a huge potential. If I were to use numbers, I would give it a 6 out of 10. There are many reasons why, but first, let's start with writing. Technically speaking, the story is not written like a manga. It is a two-man team. One writes the storyboards and the other draws the panels. Now, that's not a bad thing. I have watched a few stories that are written like that. For example, One Punch Man, Dr. Stone, etc. But those stories are written like a manga. And as of right now, I cannot say that for Moriarty the Patriot. If I did not know that this anime is based on a manga, I would have thought that it is based on a book, because it is written like one. I did check to see if the writer has written other mangas before, and I could not find any. Just another manga that is written in the same way as Moriarty the Patriot, in a collaboration with someone else. So maybe that's why this manga is written in the same way as the book. Or, since the original story is a book, then maybe they thought it would be best to write it in the same way. I would prefer it to be a manga, since you can take the story to places that the books cannot. But maybe I did try it and they could not make it work. It is easier said than done, especially when you are dealing with a great story like Sherlock Holmes. Just to be clear, I'm not saying that there is something bad, but when you are writing a non-original story, especially a great story like Sherlock Holmes, it is not good enough to just do a good job, since the expectations are high. This is a story that is considered great by many. So if you don't do an amazing job, then your story will look in the eyes of the people just another fanfiction. Taking a known story is the surest way to get people's attention, but with that also come big expectations, and you have to deliver. So this is like a double-edged sword, can work for you or against you. Now let's talk about the characters. The main character is Moriarty instead of Sherlock, which is a great choice by the writer, since you want to make the story different from the original, to stand up on its own and not just a remake. And also the character of Moriarty has great potential since in a way he is the reverse Sherlock. So this can work just fine. He has all the traits to be the main character. And also one of the reasons why I like this choice is because I want to see what would happen when a person with the mind and skills of Sherlock Holmes has no rules or restrictions or morality. Anything goes. As of right now, there are only 7 episodes out, and Sherlock was introduced in the episode 6, but he had a minor role, which I expected. I don't think he will play a huge role in the story, for the same reasons why Moriarty doesn't play a huge role in the books. And the main reason for that is due to them having the same skills. The writer is not going to be able to move the story forward if he will involve these two characters all the time, since they will negate each other because they are the same level. And based on the opening, it doesn't seem that Sherlock will have a huge role since he barely features in it. In the list of the characters, John Watson is in it as well, and this did intrigue me. I wonder how he is going to be portrayed. I think the movies did a better job portraying Watson than the TV series. In the TV series, Watson is more like a fan than a friend. So I wonder in which direction the manga will go. Or they will come up with something completely different. And now let's talk about the story. I did mention earlier that this manga is written more like a book than a manga, and if you did not know that this anime is based on a manga, you would not be able to tell. Now, one of the differences between a manga and a book is that the mangaka always gets to the point. So a mangaka can establish more of the story and the characters in the first 5 minutes of the first episode than a writer in 5 episodes. So the story doesn't start with a bang, but rather takes its time, which is normal for a book story, But the interesting thing here is that the Sherlock Holmes books are not written like a book. The writer gets immediately to the point, which is the cases and Sherlock solving them, and everything else gets established and developed over time. There are 2 episodes that go back in time when Moriarty was a kid. I'm assuming the reason for that was due to Moriarty not being well known, and the writer wants the audience to know who this character is and why he is the way he is and the things that he does. I think you can get the same result without showing his childhood. Conan Doyle did it that way with Sherlock. But anyway, now let's get to the cases, because I think they are the most important thing. If the writer fails to do a good job with the cases, then the story will fail. Now, did he do a good job or not? So far, I did a good job, but not great. The first case we see in the story is the case with the murdered children. And this got my attention, because they were not just murdered, but also tortured. And as the story was unfolding, I was really intrigued, especially when it was revealed that each of the children is from a different family with a different profession. And this really got my attention. I thought something really big is happening and that will affect a lot of people, maybe even the country. But no, that was not the case. And there was not some great mastermind, and the motives were not made clear. And the way how Moriarty caught the murderer is really underwhelming. So easy that at first I didn't believe it. I thought there would be more of the case. So one of the kids that got murdered was a musician that plays in the streets, and the murderer saw him from the window of the club that he hangs out, and he usually always sits next to the window. Yeah, because that's not going to be suspicious. Why would a killer kill people close to him if he'd not want to get caught? I understand if he wanted to hurt people that he knows, but that would make a good drama and not a crime mystery. So the big reason why this crime was solved was due to Moriarty going to the victim's place and looking at the buildings around. And when Moriarty went to talk with him, he was sitting at the same place. And that's how Moriarty found out. Which was really weird. So the criminal stuck around the crime scene and that's how Moriarty found him. How convenient. I don't think Conan Doyle would approve this. Now let's talk about deductions, which are the most important thing in the story. There are times when they are good and times when they are not. Here's the problem. The whole idea of deduction is not about a character guessing right about another character in a fictional story. But how? How did he get it right? The explanation is the most important thing, if not the only thing that matters, since this is a fictional story. You can write whatever you want, but will it make sense? That's the thing. Deductions without explaining them are the same as me saying this character in my story is the strongest of all. Why is he the strongest? I'm not going to tell you, but he is. It is not hard to write that a character is strong, since it is fiction, but how and why he is the strongest, that's the whole point. Otherwise the writer is shutting the door on the audience, since without explaining they cannot follow the story. Now, here's an example of deductions being done right and wrong. When Sherlock met Moriarty, he did guess right that Moriarty is a mathematician. When Moriarty did ask Sherlock, "How did you know that?" Sherlock said, "Whilst gazing at this spiral staircase, your time, your distance and your angle told me so." And he went on even more, and that was great. Then Moriarty said to Sherlock, "You play the violin." But he did not explain how he got that, which is weird. He could have said something like, "Well, the injury on your finger is usually caused by playing the violin," or something like that. But that and the other deductions were not explained, which is so weird. That's not how deductions go. When Sherlock did ask Moriarty, "How did you know?" the only thing that Moriarty said was, "Because it is obvious." None of that was obvious. It is quite surprising the writer thinks that was a good answer. It would be better if Moriarty would have said, "Well, this is a fictional story and the writer told me everything." What the writer did with Sherlock was good, but not with Moriarty. I don't know why the writer chose to do that. Sherlock went into small details, while Moriarty did not at all. Anyway, based on what did happen so far in the story, it seems that the most important thing in the story is society. That is the foundation, not the crime mysteries or detectives and deductions, no. I appreciate the direction that the writer has taken, and not just do what was done before, but I would appreciate more if the cases and deductions are done properly. So Moriarty thinks the way the society functions is not just, and he has taken on himself to change that. And his solution, I think, is brilliant. You can say that morally is wrong, but it is very effective and it makes for a great story. I said earlier that I was curious to know what would happen when a character with the skills of Sherlock Holmes has no restrictions. So what Moriarty is trying to do is create a mirror for the people at the top, the nobles, to show them that what we are doing is not something special or unique, but just crimes. The reason why other people in society are not doing those things is not that they are not capable of, but they don't have the means or they will not do to moral reasons. One example is the case with that character that killed those children. When Moriarty did remove the restriction between the father of the victim and that rich guy, the result was the same, death. Or with the case on the ship. That character was able to commit this crime and get away with it, but now that Moriarty did put him against someone who is not weak and defenseless as his previous victim, he was the one who did end up dead. No innocent character was hurt during that process. Good guy Moriarty. If things like that continue to happen, then people at the top will be afraid to commit crimes against people below them because the same thing could happen to them as well. There is no protection. No one is safe anymore. So everyone will think twice before doing something bad. I'm looking forward to seeing how the story will play out. I hope the writer will do a great job. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.